So this is Accelerate GED Math. This is the introduction to algebra for the class. So this video will cover 4 topics. First, understanding polynomials. Second, simplifying polynomials. Third, the distributive property. And writing and solving one-step equations. So here are some vocabulary words that hopefully you are familiar with. First, polynomials. Polynomials is an expression with more than one term. It is a combination of coefficients, variables, exponents, and constants. So let me draw an example, or write an example of what that really means. We'll use blue. So if I said 3x squared plus 5x plus 6, this is a polynomial because it has more than one term. It actually has 3 terms, and is a combination of coefficients, variables, exponents, and has constant numbers. So first, we'll talk about the definition of coefficients. So coefficients is defined as the number in front of a variable. So a variable is something that is changing. So I'll put variable as something that changes. Alright, so next up, when we're talking about variables, they're usually an X or a Y. Sometimes you'll see A or B or C or Z on the GED test. Exponents showing repeated multiplication. So an exponent is something like x to the second power. This 2 is the exponent, or 3 to the third power. It tells you how many times to multiply your base number by. Constants are a number without a variable tied to it. So here at this polynomial, you see that these numbers, these coefficients have a variable tied to it. There's an x squared up against it. There's an x against this 5. Well, this is a constant number. It's always going to be 6 no matter what. So here's a visualization of all that. First, we have a variable which is always changing. It's usually x, y, or z, sometimes a, b, or c. So this is our variable. It's a letter. Then over here we have a coefficient in front of the variable. It's usually a number. It can be a negative number, a positive number. Then over here we have constants. Constants are the numbers that do not have a variable tied to it. They're just numbers by themselves, and they're always going to be those numbers. Exponents is the number something is raised to. Alright, so now we're going to review adding and subtracting polynomials. And to add and subtract polynomials, we have to first be able to distinguish what are like terms. So the definition for like terms is have variables that are the same, or are terms that the same variable is raised to the same power. So that's kind of confusing. So if I had 5x plus 7x plus 8, my like terms are terms that have the same variable. So we have one with x and we have one with another x. So what we can do once we find that they have the same variable is we can actually add the coefficients. So the 7 and the 5, that is 12. It's 12x plus 8. And also another example would be 3x squared y plus 7x squared y. We understand that there's a 3 and there's a 7, but we can only add them if they are the same. So 3x squared y and 7x squared y, they have the same, so we can add the 3 and the 7, which is 10x squared y. An example that we couldn't simplify any further would be 7xy plus y squared x to the 5th. If we had this, we couldn't actually add that. This would be the simplest form because they do not have the same variables. So another examples are, an example of subtracting a variable would be 3x squared minus 2x squared plus 7. So what we can do is we realize this is x squared, this is x squared. They have their like terms, so what we do is we can do 3 minus 2, which is just 1, x squared plus 7. And in algebra, we understand that there's a 1 in front, so it's usually x squared plus 7. Alright, so distributive property. So in algebra and math, you've already learned that 3 times 5 is equal to 15. And other ways in algebra that they start writing it is 3 times 5 is equal to 15. And other ways you'll see it written as 3 open parentheses 5 close parentheses is equal to 15. And you can also see it written as 15. So these are things that we're kind of familiar with already, and algebra takes it up a notch or so. We see in our lessons that follow, we see when we start doing one-step processes in algebra, we realize that it gets a little complicated. And so in the problem before, when we had 3 times 5, all we did was we did 3 times 5. But what happens when we have a 3x and then we have another number inside the parentheses? What we're supposed to do is we take the number in front, this 3, and it has to be multiplied to both numbers. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 5 is 15. So that's one thing to know. We'll see examples of that in our homework that we'll be doing in class tomorrow. Alright, so writing and solving one-step equations. Equations, so first let's define what an equation is. An equation, it says, are two expressions that are equal to each other. So this is an expression here, this is an expression, and this is an expression, and they're equal to each other. So 3 plus 5 is 8, and 4 times 2 is 8. So this is pretty simple. These two problems up here are pretty simple, pretty straightforward. 3 plus 4 is 7, so 7 times 5 is 35 is equal to 35. So what this equal sign represents is these two numbers are equal. So what we will really be doing tomorrow, or for our next class, is we're going to be starting to plug in numbers. We see this problem, it's 4 plus x is equal to 11. And but the next line tells us x is equal to 7. So we can stop saying x and we can start saying 7. Or some people say we can plug in the number. So instead of saying x, we're going to start saying 7. So I'm going to rewrite this, and it'll be 4 plus 7 is equal to 11. And when we do the math, 11, that's 11, which is equal to 11. And the other one-step equation we'll be doing for homework in class is this one. Problems like this. So we see 3x is equal to 24. And it tells us x is equal to 8. So every time we see x, we can plug in an 8. And we notice that they're really close, pressed up against each other. So that means we're going to multiply. So I'm going to rewrite this. 3, open parentheses, 8, close parentheses, is equal to 24. And when we do the math, 24 is equal to 24. So that's the end of this video. One more thing, we have one more problem. We are going to solve for x on this problem, and we want to get x, this variable, by itself. And what we do is we have to add 5 to both sides. And when we do that, this cancels out, becomes 0. We have x is equal to, so what happens when we have a positive number and a negative number? So we'll end up with 3 here. And then one more thing, the flag of the day is Madagascar. This is for Jose. Hope you watch this video.